Okay, everyone, welcome to today's Wealth Creation Show. And today we are going to be discussing a topic titled The Shortcut to Success. But we'll delve in to see whether there actually is a shortcut to success in building wealth, or whether it is a longer process than a lot of people would like to think. There's a lot of these get rich quick things and things out there, but we're going to go into that today and really look at the ins and outs of success and wealth and how to get there in that journey. Before we continue into obviously the content today, Jim, you're on. You're not in the studio today.
No. Spain. I'm out in Spain. So December, Christmas time, I'm in Spain.
Good.
Nice and hot here, by the way. You can see it's t-shirt weather.
Yeah.
And blue skies. But yeah, that's things I suppose you can do when you're in a good position, I suppose.
Yeah. And building success and wealth and things over time, this is where it gets you, and being able to do things like being overseas and enjoying the better weather when we're cold here in the UK at this time of year. So
yeah,
that's the things we're going to talk about.
I don't like the weather. I'll just leave and go to another place that's got weather.
Yeah, definitely. So today's topic's all about obviously success and is there really a shortcut to that? And I thought we could really delve into the ins and outs. And I think it's what, if people listen to the show quite often, you'll know that we talk about people that are more successful and wealthy and things as well. And if you listen to their stories and their interviews and things as well, a lot of successful people, when they tell their stories, more often than not, you'll realise that no true story is the same, but they do have a lot of the same elements, and that's things like, and topics we cover quite a lot, is having mentors that are guiding them and reading the right books and listening to the right podcasts and things that help them along the way in that journey. And these are all key things and really important to anyone's success. And I think as well, another thing that becomes apparent when you look at other people's success stories is they weren't always extremely smart, as I would say. Some people have this misconception that you need to be really well educated and have that background, and have maybe degrees and have that education. But I mean, a lot of successful people, some of the most successful and wealthy people in the world, didn't even finish high school, or didn't attend colleges and things. So it's not, you don't need to be academically smart to be successful. I'm sure you'll agree with that, Jim.
The only reason you need to be academically smart is if your success is built on a discipline that requires it. In other words, you've got a veterinary practice, you've got a solicitor's practice, a big chain of them, or a big chain of vets, or a big chain of accountants or something like that. So you're basically running businesses and you're overseeing them, but you've got the expertise, because that's kind of where you first started out. That's how most successful businesses start out. The one person gets a great idea, runs with it, and then it kind of blossoms over time. And how it starts out and how it is now is probably a completely different version of what they thought it would be in the beginning. It never turns out exactly how you want it to turn out. It turns out completely different on most occasions. I think that's the thing you've got to remember. So don't sweat the small stuff. Don't get bent out of shape if it doesn't go the direction you want it to go in the beginning. Just accept the fact if it's successful, the business we're talking about, anything you're involved in, or it doesn't need to be a business. It's just an idea, thought process, and that. If it's successful and it's got legs, in other words, it can go somewhere, then just go with it.
Yeah.
The key here is not to try and be too structured, and not to try and be too bent out of shape. I always imagine bent out of shape was actually was a phrase that Bernie D'Souza used to use. Bernie retired at 25 years old, a multimillionaire. He was one of my mentors. But he used to use bent out of shape, and I went, bent out of shape? What's that all about? And he went, well, you know how Daffy Duck goes, when he gets that bent out of shape way, when something goes wrong, it's like that. It's like Daffy Duck. That's what he refers to when you talk about being bent out of shape. You just don't like what's going on, but you should just leave it alone and let it happen. because it's successful. Why change it? Oh no, we're prescribed. We're completely prescribed, and we're completely predictable. If that's the word I would use, in the way we do things, and we want it to go that way because that's how we're planned it. And for some people, it's really difficult to get out of that. Me personally, for a lot of years, it had to be this way. It had to be a certain way. I think my business partner, when I first started out in the estate agency, was like that as well. He was so on the, it has to be exactly how it is, and it has to be disciplined how it is. And fair enough, it's discipline, it's consistency, and all the rest of it. And that needs a bit of that. But you've got to have some sort of flexibility somewhere, or you'll never succeed. You'll just be. I think you'll just be upset and annoyed right throughout your life. You'll maybe have a wee bit of wealth, but you'll not enjoy it because it's come about because you've tried to do things far too rigid, and you've never had fun with it. And I think that's what that's where a lot of people fall down. I would say, definitely, that's where a lot of people do fall down because they don't get past that level of having more or less a one-man operation that's completely reliant on them and their ability to perform. That's how most businesses are small. They're small businesses. They're just one-person organisations. It's the backbone of the economies in the world, I would say. But it does, if you want to know what's holding you back, it's you.
Yeah, you made a few good points there, and I absolutely could relate to the whole. Like you're saying, structure and discipline definitely has its place, but I think a lot of people are so consumed with perfection and trying to do things in a certain way that it actually could hold them back, rather than just having this great idea and running with it and seeing how it evolves and seeing who could help you along the way or who could help you make it what it needs to be. And it can be quite restrictive, and it is quite a hard thing to get out of. Some people are quite consumed by the perfection side of things, and it's hard to get away from it. So yeah, definitely. The thing about this kind of society that we're in as well, when it comes to talking about shortcuts and things, we've got this instant society nowadays that people just want everything straight away, and success and wealth and these get rich quick things is what everybody's drawn in by. But really, to be really successful and build wealth takes time, and you stand as an example of that, Jim, and so does a lot of other more successful people in the world. So people are kind of looking for these shortcuts, and would the advice be don't look for a shortcut? I mean, there's always a lot of good advice and help to help you along the way, but you're still going to have to go through that time scale and that path to success, and it's not going to happen in a couple of years. It's a process.
For some people, it might be quite quick. I'll probably give you a great example of myself personally. To get to in the first 5 years when we started property investment, I think possibly I maybe got to about 10 or 12 properties. And that was a push because I had to reinvent the wheel. I had to invent the wheel, never mind reinvent. There was no such wheel at the time. So I had to make my own wheel, if that makes sense.
Right.
It took me all that time. And yet in the last couple of years, we've managed to grow a company from scratch to 60 properties in the last couple of years.
Yeah. Yeah, it's grew exponentially in that short period of time.
And so think about that, but how is that possible? And everybody go, well, you've got loads of money. Well, actually, I had none of my own money into it, and none of anybody else's money, by the way. And everybody's going, how the hell did you do that? Well, that's for me and our landlords to know, or us to help them do that. I'm not telling people how to do that on a public forum because they just go and take it and then gloss it up as their own. And then say, look what I can do. And it's like, wait a minute, you just stole that from me. So
perfecting and working towards.
Yeah, definitely. So it's experience and expertise and wisdom that counts for that. And it's like what anybody says, if I was to go back to when I was 21, would I change anything? Probably not, because then I wouldn't be where I am just now. And a lot of people actually go back and they'll go, I tell them, you know, to do all this and to do all that and to bet on this and to bet on that. And I thought, okay, your life's going to turn out extremely, you know, vastly different from where you are right now. And if you like yourself where you are right now, then you possibly should be saying, I wouldn't change anything.
Mm-hmm.
But that's probably wisdom and, dare I say, age. Age. That's wisdom and age that begins to tell you that. Definitely. Would I do anything different? Would all that? I mean, what was the original question? Because you know I go off on a right tangent.
No, you're fine. It was more about obviously the instant society that we're in, and people looking for shortcuts. I was kind of saying there isn't really a shortcut as such, but there's ways and means that could help you along the way. Like, and obviously you've trodden the path. It's taken you, a decade or two to do that. But there's a lot you could learn from people a lot more successfully that can speed up the process. But you're still going to need to have that time to obviously let your success build in your wealth.
It's always been the same. If you look back to, I'll tell you a classic video. CCC, Paul McCartney and Michael Jackson. Okay. You know, it starts off with the snake oil salesman. Mm-hmm. You know, sitting there, and he's trying to sell everything. I think it's maybe Paul McCartney is doing it. He's the snake oil salesman in the video. Michael Jackson comes along and hauls him out of it, or he's involved in it as well, that sort of thing. So it shows you straight away that snake oil salesmen have always been there. The people, the gurus, the fake gurus, the ones that want to sell you something. It's just all about money for them. I know that sounds daft, but because you got to say money's right up there with oxygen. Try doing anything without it, you're going to be hard pushed. So it's important as a tool to do what you need to do when you need to do it. But the snake oil salesman has always existed.
Yeah,
it goes back to you could go back 1,000 years and you'll still have people like that. It were like that in a different form, and it is today. And I think it's the burning desire for us as humans and Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If anybody understands that, the need for a roof over your head, the need for shelter, the need for your community, then finally you get to self-actualization. In other words, the need to be approved by everybody.
Yeah,
that sort of thing. So I think it appeals to everybody's human nature, and the fact that when they see a get-rich-quick scheme or something, they think they're going to get income straight away. Then they jump on the bandwagon because they think it's, they kind of think, oh well, what if it is true, and what if I miss out? What if I miss out? Yeah. Or their friends are doing it, and their friends have had some mild success just by fluke, to be honest. Typically that's what happens, and then they think I'll go on it as well. Tell you a classic example is crypto. Maybe $100,000 for a Bitcoin, but look at the millions and billions of pounds that have been lost over that time from other people. I didn't think they would say crypto was a good investment for them because they're still broke. Yeah. They lost everything in that. So it's maybe got its day the now, but it's just effectively gambling, and because it's just numbers out of thin air, isn't it? There's nothing tangible about it. And that's the get-rich-quick schemes that you've got to watch out for. So would you live in this microwave society? Ping, everybody wants it now, and they want it. They don't want it yesterday anymore. They want it today. Yeah. They want it today. They want it now. They're not prepared to wait. That's the type of society we definitely do live in. I think everybody would agree with me that's watching this or listening into it.
Yeah, I think as well, and a lot of people, and I think where they'll fall foul to maybe considering these kind of get-rich-quicks or these kind of schemes, is maybe they're investing their time and they're putting themselves out there and doing what they're doing consistently, and they're just not seeing those results. I mean, they're making results, but maybe not seeing the results that they're expecting as quickly as they expected. But you know, it might take it, like you say initially, for that first 5 to 10 years to get yourself in a really good position, and then, like you say, how your business grew. Now I mean, in the last 2-3 years, you've pushed it exponentially, but it's because you put in all that time before and built that structure. So, what would your advice be to people that are maybe, 5 years in that first 5 to 10 years, and they're feeling a wee bit like,
it's compounding.
Yeah.
Keep going at it. Keep going at it all the time. Keep being disciplined. Keep being consistent in what you're doing, especially if you're making small gains. Because remember, from small acorns grow big trees, big oak trees, and that's where it all starts. It's in the very beginning. It's very, very small, and it takes quite a while to build up. But it's just like anything. If you've got 10% of £1,000 in the very beginning, you're getting £100 a year. But over a period of time, maybe 20 years, you've got 20 grand now because you're putting £1,000 away a year, and the 20 grand and 10% of that is now making £2,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
So when you started, it was £100 a year. Now it's £2,000 a year, and you're 20 years in, and you're saving £1,000 a year. And then it starts to compound over time. Because remember, the 10% you're getting every year is 100, and then the next year it's 200, the next year it's 300, the next year it's 400, and the next year it's 500, and it's like, wait a minute, I've got another £1,000. So you're only 5 years in, you're getting 10% of another grand. So the next year after that, it still mounts up and mounts up and mounts up. So it compounds even more than what I just said.
Yeah.
That's why when you put away your pension, I think it's the first 40 years, it's £144,000 if you put 2,880 in. Yeah, somebody could do the numbers if they want. 2,880 is the minimum, the maximum contribution you can pay for anybody in the UK. And when you pay it into the private pension, the government will automatically top it up, even if it's a child. So they'll top up to 3,600. So they'll give you effectively over £600 or £700 extra money on top of that money you've just saved. There's an instant 20% return that you've just got on what you put in. I was talking to Ben about it last night. I think I blew his mind. I didn't think you'll have got much sleep. You'll have been so excited about the future. But I was talking to him about it last night, and I was saying it compounds over a period of time. So if you do that every single year, then you're automatically every single year in your money you're putting in, you're getting a 20% uplift every single year. But you're not just getting that 20%. That 20% plus the money you've put in is attracting the return on the investment fund as well, which could be 5%. Just say for the sake of it, just 5%. That's an easy one to do. So you're getting 5% of that as well of compounding it. So that all adds up. So what happens is 144,000 over that 40 years at a 10% growth ends up being something like 6 million at the end of 40 years. Oh, it's mental. But because, look at it this way, and everybody goes, how is that entirely possible? Because if you add up 144,000, how are you going to get 6? Or even if it's 2 million, 3 million, it doesn't matter. It's still a hell of an amount compared to what you would double it up. So let me give you an example of this, an easy example that everybody understands about compounding. Mm-hmm. 1 pence doubled up for 31 days. So 1 pence in the first instance becomes 2 pence the next day, becomes 4 pence, becomes 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256, 512, 1,024. You notice that's the bytes.
Yeah.
Pixel sizes, 1,024, 2,048. So you notice how that works.
Yeah.
But you look at that, and you get to day 30 when you're doing that, and day 30 something comes out right doubled up from 1 pence 30 days before. It comes up as 5 million. 5 million.
So it's compounded up kind of.
But listen,
and an awful lot.
Listen though, you only got 1 pence in the first day with the double up from day 1 to day 2. But in day 31, you're now getting another 5 million because it doubles up again.
Yeah.
So you make 5 million day 31, and you only made 1 pence on day 1. Easy to get disillusioned in the first 5 days, first 5 years. Think about it. Mm-hmm. But in the next 30 to 40 years, quid's in.
Yeah.
It's a no-brainer. And nobody understands how important compounding is, compounding wealth. Literally, Warren Buffett says, the Oracle of Omaha, it is the 8th wonder of the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, the compounding effect things, and we've done a couple of shows on it before, and that's a brilliant analogy, and what I was trying to obviously kind of get to when I was asking the question, and I knew you would explain it quite well. It's like people get that disheartened way in that early stage, and they give up, or they move on, or try and think of something new, and
buy to let doesn't work. Buy to let doesn't work because I've hit a hurdle. Somebody's not paying their rent, or I've got a huge utility, a huge repair bill, or something like that. It's like, and do you not think I had it? Oh, you had it easy, Jim. No, homeless, unemployed, to where I am now. That's not having it easy.
Yeah, I think you said about Warren Buffett there. I think I've got what I wrote. There's a few sayings, and it's like Napoleon Hill says it was patience, persistence, and perspiration make the unbeatable combination for success. And it's that whole patience and delayed gratification that you need to have, and you need to keep in your forefront in your mind, especially when you're on that journey, because it could be easy to be deterred. I mean, did you ever feel like that through your journey, that you were thinking like this is not going anywhere, or did you always have that in your mind?
No,
like this?
I knew exactly where I was going.
Yeah,
I knew exactly where I was going. 44,000 houses in 40 years.
That is a big
honestly.
Yeah,
44,000 houses in 40 years. I did a spreadsheet, and honestly, the spreadsheet compounded like that, about the money just going back in all the time and all the rest of it. And I got some stupid like 44,000 houses, and I was naive enough to believe it. But do you know what? Even if I got to 50 or 100, 200, 300, 400, 1,000 houses, I would still be better off than I was when I was there. So what difference did it make? Whether and people if you ever told anybody that, they'd just go, right. But my point is, even if I get fractionally near it, it's better than where I am right now.
Yeah.
And that's what people don't realise. It's like, who cares? We talk about this in setting goals. You know, and we talk about this in sales goals and the number of landlords you want to sign up, number of market appraisals you want to do. It's like, okay, realistically, we'll maybe do about 12. But I tell you what, let's try and go for 20 and see how we get on. And if you do that every single month and you get an extra 2 out of that, just going for 20 every month, then after a year, you've got 24 more landlords. After 10 years, you've got 240 more landlords. 240 more landlords is a letting agency business. And that's just you added that on just to organic growth in 10 years.
Yeah. The thing that I picked up on there, obviously, you said about obviously that was a big goal to have is 44,000, but that's what comes through on your spreadsheet. And the thing I picked up on when you said that was because the way you worked the numbers on that spreadsheet was everything, and this is obviously relating to buy-to-let investment, everything that you were making was going right back into the buy-to-let business. And that's how that mechanism worked. So,
because my side hustle was that. That's a bit weird there, considering. But my full-time job, which paid for my living, was a financial controller, financial director. That's what I did. Oh, but I hear everybody saying, "Oh, it's no fair. You had it easy because you're financial controller." I went back to college to work all that out.
Yeah,
I spent about 5 to 7 years at the very beginning studying to get to that point where I would understand numbers very, very well, because that's where I thought my wealth was going to be built, and being an accountant. I thought being an accountant would set me free and be a millionaire. And it's like, and then I found out, wait a minute, at that time I could only get paid 30 grand. It's like, how am I going to be a millionaire with 30 grand a year? Hey, it's possible. You can be, if you take some of that money, the 30 grand you're getting, and just put it in a fund and invest it over the years and leave it alone to compound, then yes, you will be a millionaire in 40 to 50 years from then. That's no bad, considering the fact that most people retire. I think the fund is now gone, their retirement fund and their private pensions. Most people retire nowadays on an average of, I think it's 60,000 a year. 60,000 for that's it, their fund. It's not a year. That's the fund, that's 60 grand.
Yeah, that's the pot.
Yeah, that's the pot they've got. It's like, hold it, that's going to last you 1.5 years for your retirement. Oh, you're going to be working for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And that's what will happen. Oh, but we've got the state pension. Utter crap. State pension will be away from here in 10 years' time.
Yeah.
There'll probably be no such thing as the government's moved it on. That's why they're deliberately doing this just now with companies for their employees. They're deliberately passing the buck of the state pension ownership onto the employee and also onto the employer. And then eventually, when they get to that, that tipping point, they'll be able to say, right, we're going to switch off the state pension now, and the employer and you will be responsible for it as an employee.
Yeah.
They're no daft. Look what they did to the WASPy women.
Yeah,
it's like they just stuck it to them. It's like, wait a minute, we're all behind you, says Labour, when the WASPy women. We're all behind you. When we get into power, we're going to sort that for you. And yesterday they went, get it up, yeah, we're not doing anything. You're not entitled to a thing. What? How could you blatantly lie? I guess that's a politician. How do you tell they're lying? Their lips are moving.
Yeah, it's unfortunately it's true, and I did hear that. But yeah, and the thing is, well, when you talk about like investment and your side hustle, and that's where a lot of people fall foul as well, because in those early years they're making money on their side hustle, but they're using that as opposed to living on their income for their proper job. And ultimately, people's aspirations to, if it's buy-to-let investment and things, is like, I want that to set me free, and so that I could have a comfortable retirement, right? Well, you need to let it grow for it to be able to do that, not now. And that's where a lot of people get fall foul and get like a wee bit mixed up and touch it too early.
And they're even coming for the buy-to-let landlords, aren't they? They're putting more legislation. There are more tax implications for investment landlords, more EDS, additional dwelling supplement for buying a second property to rent. It's getting higher and higher all the time. And I would say it's getting less accessible to the people just trying to start out. The people like me have been in this for a while are like, no bother. That's it's easy. And so to a degree, I'm quite happy with them putting ADS up to 8% in Scotland and 6% in England, because then it deters them and it leaves an open market and a limited market for people like me. Yeah. And it's like happy days. Oh, we'll put rent controls in. Okay, put rent controls in. That's fine. I'm no bothered. It's like I've got myself into a position, gearing-wise, where I don't need to worry about rent controls, really. And if anything, rent controls are deterring more landlords, which makes me more desirable. We'll invite corporate landlords. Oh, do you think a corporate landlord is going to build in places like Methil, Glenrothes, Leven, the outskirts or the wee villages and towns? No, they're not, because they have to build on scale. They have to build 600 units at a time. So there's no way they're going to interrupt either. The only one we have to watch is the housing associations with their mid-market rents.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're going to be able to build on massive scale. If the government can't build enough social housing, or even private housing at this point in time, the 1.5 million they're supposed to be doing in their tenure, I'll have to laugh at that. No chance. They'll never be able to build all these ones for social housing either. So we're on an island. We've got a closed shop, more or less. We've got always huge demand and limited supply. That's a recipe for kind of a boom. Yeah. So I think more and more there'll be more consolidation in the private rented sector. We've probably seen that. If you look at the start, there was 92% of landlords, I think it was, had one property in Scotland. I think that's down to 76% now after 2 or 3 years, because more have sold off and other landlords bigger landlords have bought up these maybe portfolios and stuff like that and properties from these people to consolidate their position, because then they can weather storms because they're robust enough and they've got enough income spread over, or enough cost spread over a wider scale. You can see it everywhere.
Yeah, the more established landlords and things like yourself, things that have got bigger portfolios, the increase on ADS and rent controls and things potentially coming in, they've got a better position to mitigate that and absorb these kinds of costs. Whereas you say like the majority of landlords, we've got 1, possibly 2 properties, that's where it's going to hit them, or even new ones coming into the market. But there's still opportunities out there for everyone. You just need to look in the right place and get the right advice.
Definitely. I think it's plugging into somebody that actually does this already, and understands the market, and dare I say, eat their own cooking, if anybody knows what that means. In other words, what you're teaching is what you're actually doing actively right now, and you're as successful at it as you're not just playing at it. Success comes in different forms, doesn't it? Like, for example, just because I get a picture with, for example, well, Richard Branson. Just because I got a picture, well, probably you are, because if you're on Necker Island and you can afford to be on there, then you probably are successful, because there's no other way you can get near Richard Branson on Necker Island without actually being there. And that's no just a luxury holiday. I would say that's a once in a lifetime for most people, if they'll ever get that. However, when you're on, for example, Lamborghinis and jets, I see people taking photographs of themselves saying, look at me, I'm on a jet and how successful. And everybody goes, yeah, you're successful. It's like, you don't know if they actually even own that jet, or if they're actually just sitting on it and they're going to get off again, or it could be somebody else's. And you're assuming straight away that this person's successful because you see them doing that. I can't urge people enough to do their due diligence and find out about anybody in any background. I'm not just talking about property investors, I'm talking about anybody. There's one guy blowing off his steam with the Courier just now about how one of his companies made millions. And it's like, I've yet to find that company, by the way, because I've looked into all these companies and the majority are actually making a loss.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm dumbfounded about how he's like, where did you get this millions from that you're making? Because there is no company that exists. He does live in Dubai. There's a wee hint. He's maybe actually not a UK taxpayer, I would say. But he does have companies in the UK, and they're all broke. They've not really got anything at all. They've not made anything astronomical about, according to his claims, put it that way. So it doesn't match what he says. And I would be wary about somebody like that straight away. This is a guy that's got a fund. It's supposed to have a fund that invests in new technologies and that. And I'm thinking, that kind of guy that's got a fund, but it's 400 million and he makes 20% a year for his clients. And I met him on Necker Island. That's certainly no you.
Yeah.
Because you're not making these returns.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've got to be wary about these people.
Okay. What I wanted to move on and talk about a wee bit, we kind of touched on it a wee bit at the beginning when we spoke about, obviously, it was trial and error. And I wanted to talk about, a lot of people who have become successful things just go out and try things. We covered about being a perfectionist and letting that hold you back. And because a lot of people wait around and put things off, and it's like, and you could procrastinate, which we've done a whole show on as well. But then, when's tomorrow going to come?
Procrastination.
Yeah.
Procrastination. Tomorrow is never going to come. You have to do it now. Oh, see the amount of people that actually say they've got nothing holding them back. I actually did this in a wee talk the other day, just for people that actually follow me. So I did it the other day on my social media page. I just do it on my social media page, my Facebook page, my own profile one, because I can't be bothered sharing it anywhere else. I do it on mine. That's it. We're done. The people that follow, good luck. You've got all the great advice from me for nothing. But one of the things I said about people having saying that they've not got any hang-ups or anything that holds them back, I could dispel that myth straight away. And the classic example of that is, take what you've got right now. So, for example, if you want to do 100,000 this year, that's been conservative for some people, 100,000. So, being prudent about it. You want to make 100,000 this year, and you say you've got no hang-ups and you'll make 100,000. Add another zero on that, and tell yourself you're going to make $1 million this year. How likely are you to convince yourself? Now, it's $1 million now. It's another 900,000 you've got to find. So how likely you? Completely different. And then what happens out of that is then all the shite comes out in your head about how you're not going to be able to do that. Most people, that's what happens. And that is the things that are holding you back. That's what's holding you back.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because they're saying, no, nothing holds me back. All right, then that's fine then. You could do $1 million this year instead of 100,000. Oh, but wait a minute. Oh, but I've got this, and I've got this, and I've got that. It's like, there you go. That's what's holding you back.
Yeah, no,
that's exactly what's holding you back. And every single person's got that. And on the majority of occasions, I bet what's holding them back is, I'm not prepared to pay that price.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because it's maybe their family, it's maybe their friends, it's maybe their health, it's maybe the risk that they're not prepared to put in. They're not prepared to pay that price. That's what's holding you back. So don't tell me that there's nothing holding you back ever, because there always is.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and it's like it's a fear thing as well. Fear is the biggest thing that could really hold you back and cloud your entire judgment. And you might think, like you say, that nothing holds me back, but there always will be something unless you identify what that is. And the key is just to try and not be afraid and really put yourself out there. And then sometimes you will fail. And I think this is the thing as well about failure. People are so scared of failure, but it's all part of growing and being successful, to learn from those failures. And we speak about that quite a lot. And I actually put in here the Thomas Edison example, because I think it's brilliant. And how he was obviously inventing the light bulb. But the light bulb, he failed thousands of times. I've actually got in my notes here, it says that he failed 10,000 times. I thought that can't be right. I went online.
Thousand. Over 1,000 times.
Yeah. But what he did say is, like, what he famously said was, he had not failed. He just found 1,000 ways that it wouldn't work.
It wouldn't work, yeah. That's the glass half full person, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like when I used to go for blood donations. I'm low in iron. I always have been for some reason. There's nothing to do with the fact I'm a vegan. I've always been that, low in iron for some reason. So every time I'd go, it would the iron test, it would just float to the top, and they'd go, sorry, you can't give a donation because you're low in iron. And Elaine would say, so did you fail the test? And I used to say, well, I didn't pass. And she went, well, that's failed. That's failed then. And I went, no, I didn't pass. That's all. I never failed. There was no fail or anything like that. I just didn't pass their requirements. That's all. So see how one person puts it as a failure and one person puts it, well, I just didn't pass the requirements. That's it. End of story. But see how that psychologically makes a difference. You tell yourself you failed.
You failed there.
Yeah. Like, you tell yourself you failed. Another one, you tell yourself, well, you just didn't pass. It's an easier way to ease yourself in for that. And plus the fact, you're not saying it's your fault. It's the very fact that's their criteria. That's the way they want it. That's the same with The Apprentice when I went in for the screen test in Glasgow for The Apprentice with Alan Sugar. It was quite interesting because I got there and everybody was flapping about in the green room. And they were all getting worried. It's like, what if I don't get it? What if I don't do this? And what if I don't do that? And I spent my whole bloody time assuring people not to feel a failure just because they got rejected from The Apprentice. and genuinely, I had to do that with everybody because they didn't understand the psychology of the fact that, well, you just didn't match the criteria they wanted. It's not you personally. You know how they took it, how people take things personally. Yeah. Well, it's not you personally. It's just the fact that you've not got the right requirements for them for the television program, and ultimately it's usually people that just want to, talk about themselves all the time and how great they are. I should have got through. Thank God I never got through, or thank God I never went through. I think ultimately that would have been a wrong decision because at that time it wasn't a $250,000 investment; it was actually a job with Alan Sugar, which I wanted to work alongside him at that point in time. At that time, actually, Richard, I was a millionaire at that point in time. That was one of the things I put on the sheet. Well, if I could be a millionaire just doing this, then surely I could work with Alan Sugar and we could do a sort of similar thing. I've obviously got some skills of some sort, and that's why they says, "Oh, come in for a screen test." But obviously didn't blow my own trumpet far enough, and like, oh, I'm Stuart Baggs and I'm the greatest and all the rest of it. all these different characters that you get. I'm just not that type of person. It doesn't sound like it on here and on the previous blogs and everything I've done, but I'm quite introvert once this switches off. It's like, I'm not a totally different person. I just go back to, I'm just Jim.
Just doing your own thing. Aye, yeah.
Yeah, so
what did you take away for that then? That experience with The Apprentice? Do you know, obviously, you weren't successful in completing that process to get through. So, I
think what I took away from that is the pick, the turnout stars that they really want to end up winning it, and then the rest is just fodder for the television. To lampoon and lambast and make it funny and exciting and interesting for the viewing audience.
Do you think the whole entertainment side it takes a big part of who they actually put through and who they select?
Of course. Yeah. Look at X Factor. Mm-hmm. Exactly the same. They invite these people to come on. Look at the Britain's Got Talent. They actually invite these people to come on, and everybody else that queues up is just fodder. Unless they're outstanding at some, they've come out the blue. But most of these people are actually invited, and it's all pre-purposed. It's all done. It's all, this is a result that's going to happen, and we're just following the journey of these people in order to make them give them meteoric success. And it just so happens we're going to be signing them up as well. That's the whole process. It's just like interviews. You bring on somebody in an interview, you think, okay, let's build you up, let's make money together, and job done. Exactly the same thing. It's a business. Yeah. It's not entertainment, really. Just so happens it's entertainment, the business they're in, but it's a business. It has to make money, and that's how they do it. It's a perfect opportunity to introduce them to the audience and make them human, which is what people crave. They like people just like them.
Yeah, to kind of relate to. The important thing I think to take away for that is that no matter what you do or when you put yourself out there, there's always maybe going to be somebody that's going to be maybe not better at you, but maybe aligned with the person who takes a job interview. And it doesn't mean you failed. It just means that you weren't successful because they've obviously maybe aligned with them a wee bit better. Or, there's always
criteria.
And I think once you get over that fear of failure and get that willingness and drive to continually put yourself out there and things, it all becomes a lot more easier.
Yeah, I've stopped beating myself up about no getting things. A few years ago, now and again I catch myself doing that and I go, shut up, Jimmy. Just go and take a drink of your pina colada. While you're lying on your beach. It's like, do you realise where you are? At what point you've got to? It's like, nobody really gets to this by chance. Just make yourself feel lucky, for God's sake. It's that old thing, enjoy it rather than actually live in that critical moment all the time your whole life, and actually enjoy it and acknowledge it. Mm-hmm. Acknowledge the fact of how far you've come. I thought about the other day, Richard, about you and I. We just started out just the two of us at one point.
I know, it was just us for a while.
Just us. Yeah. That was it. And we were on a tenth of the income, the tenth of the income that we're generating at that time, if not less. And so it's a whole different beast now. And now we're like, let's go to Dundee and let's go to Edinburgh and Glasgow and Perth and see what happens. Yeah. Let's take it. Let's take our format. Let's take our take on things. It's unique to not everybody else doesn't do what we do really. It may look like it, but they don't. So let's take what we've got and see if these audiences like it. And if they like it, great. If they don't, then who cares? It's like, let's have a bit of fun doing it. This is what this is all about.
Yeah, take a bit of a chance and just put things out there. And that I've got written on my notes here, and it's like you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take.
Gary Player.
Yeah, and that's what I've got here. And it's like if you sit on the fence and don't do anything, then nothing's going to happen. If you do something, then eventually, something will catch on, and you get progress.
I think it's the inherent fear from people based on historic experiences for them about things that have gone wrong in the past, and they don't want to repeat it. It's the flight or fight response.
Yeah,
they're coming along and they're thinking to themselves, I've seen this sort of thing before. It's and it didn't work out well for me. So they immediately put these fears onto that same thing that they're doing, and that's what begins to hold them back. That's why I said about, you know, this big audacious goal. Take whatever is your goal, multiply it by 10, and then you'll hear all your excuses coming out about how you're not going to be able to do that.
Yeah,
that's your real excuses that are holding you back.
Yeah, that is a really good one. I like that. So yeah, I think, and then rounding up about the shortcut to success, and I think I titled the show "The Shortcut to Success" today, but in reality, there isn't really a shortcut. You know, it's such a much longer process, which takes a lot of input from, you know, more successful people and mentors, and reading the right books and podcasts, and learning along the way and taking those chances and putting yourself out there. I think that we've proven in a lot of previous shows that if you get the right people who have made the mistakes in the past, you could learn from them and obviously reduce your amount of failures and time that you use doing things that maybe aren't going to work. But it doesn't necessarily make the whole process ultimately shorter. It just makes you working smarter and not having costly mistakes and things along the way, because you've learned from people.
Yeah. So what I lost my train of thought because somebody's texting me.
Right.
And I quickly, somebody it's looking to do a deal with, and I'm like, oh, I tell you what, it's a good deal. But I'm trying to hold them off. I'm trying to hold them off a wee bit and be a bit less enthusiastic, because they're talking themselves out of it. They're talking themselves out of their own deal. It's brilliant to see that happen. They're actually texting me every half an hour. You know, like you get an answer machine and somebody leaves a message, and the next minute they phone up half an hour later and say, "See that last message? What I really meant was this." And then you get the next message after half an hour, and it's got, "See that message? I really didn't mean to say it like that, and I wanted to say it like this." And then they go, "See that one?" It's like, and then they phone up about 14 messages in, and they say, "Actually, I'm okay, just accepting whatever you want."
And you're not even saying anything.
Oh, genuinely, I suppose it's an experience to see that happen right in front of you.
Yeah.
But that's generally what happens with most people. They talk themselves out of it because they actually think they're having a conversation with me when I'm not even thinking about them at all. And I'm just leaving it to see where it takes them. And that's how I've done some good deals in the last couple of years, because I've just left. I've left it to its own accord, and I've let it settle. And I've said I've reconciled myself with the fact that if the deal goes somewhere else or somebody else picks it up, then fine. But it's not my number where they are at the now, and eventually they just talk themselves into getting down to my number.
Yeah.
Because they see sense. I mean, my number's no a number where I'm trying to rip them off. My number's a number where it works for me. It can't work any other way. And it is actually the maximum number I can go in my tolerance. So there's no other way. So I tell them that and I show them it. That's my maximum number, and here's the reason why. I can't go any more than that, because then look, my bottom line goes down. It's like I've got nothing. I'm a busy fool. I'm just taking over your portfolio to have the same problems as you've got. Here, have mine.
Yeah.
And then they just lump it on your back, and it's like, wait a minute, how did I get this? I bought it. What? You bought their problems? Are you nuts?
That's something you need to do.
So that's experience that you know when to walk away and just say, nah, it doesn't matter. This is why you see failing businesses, and everybody goes, but that's such a successful brand name, and it's such a successful business, and I always go there myself. And then everybody goes, how is no one buying that? For that very reason. Because the cost of finance, the cost of investment, the cost of long-term prospects, and they weigh all that up, and they look to themselves and think, this isn't going to work at this number, and that's all they're prepared to accept. So they just don't go for it, and that company is often left to go into administration or liquidation. And then some good companies have gone to the wall. Look at some of the ones in the past. Timex. Where's Timex now? You know, look at Kodak. What happened to Kodak with Instamatic cameras? It's like, what happened? I mean, they're in the film industry, but they're not the same company as they were. They're owned by someone else now, the brand name. Look at Polaroid. Polaroid's owned by a German company now, I think. An entirely different company. They just picked the name up and put it on all their televisions. Look at other ones. Some of the cars as well. Some of the car companies that in the past they actually bought the name and they just stuck it on their cars. MG. Yeah. MG is no longer a British company. It's Chinese or it's Taiwanese or something like that. It's an Asian company now, and they've got a totally different MG and they just stick the badges on them now.
I never knew that.
Yeah, so you've not got a British company anymore either. So that's exactly what happens with these companies, that people pick up the names and they stick them on their own brand, they make their own product, and everybody thinks, oh, that's still the MG always knew. It's not. It's totally different. It's foreign ownership now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you see that, and it is the same thing. It's like you see these big companies going into administration, and people think, "Well, how could that be happening? They're everywhere. Do you know how?" But obviously, they're not. They're not being run correctly and not making profits correctly.
Here's what happens. They're profitable. Okay, this is how some of them get picked up. By the way, they're profitable, but their borrowing is far too high. They're geared too high. Right. In other words, their borrowings are huge. And the amount of money they've got to pay in interest every month outweighs anything in their cash flow. You know, they could be profitable because they could be giving £1 million away a month on credit to their customers. So it looks like they're profitable on the P&L. But then when you look at the cash flow coming in, it's still in all the pockets of the supply of the customers. They've not paid them yet. So therefore, they've got no cash to pay their liabilities, which is their interest on their loans. So they become highly debt laden, and therefore that's why you hear things like debt restructure, where they go to their creditors and say to them, "It's we need to say we've got £1 million in debt. We need to restructure that. We can only manage 500,000. So every single creditor we've got, all the people that we owe money to, we're only going to pay you 50 pence in the pound. If you don't agree to that, then we're just going to have to liquidate, and you'll be left with probably a hell of a lot less." And that's how you get debt restructure and meetings of creditors, voluntary creditor meetings and stuff like that to agree a way forward. That's why when the pandemic came along, a lot of the commercial tenants actually went to their landlords and went, "I can't afford to pay you. I'm about to go out of business. I can't afford to pay you for nobody coming into my property. And I'm paying you rent every single month. I'll have to pay a reduced rent to you." And most commercial landlords went, "Yeah, that's fine. We understand." And they're the ones that survived, where the other ones that went, no, we're not having that. That's how they went out of business. Look at BHS.
Yeah, British Council. Yeah.
Wiped out. Yeah, that was all the leases that they had on all the commercial properties that wiped them out. All that encumbrant debt. And then also their pension fund as well, their encumbrant debt. Nothing. The pension fund was nothing to do with their business, really. They just hadn't put money aside to be able to afford that. They didn't see the writing on the wall coming, and therefore they got hit with that as well, because they had what they call defined contribution or defined benefit. Defined benefit, yeah. They had a defined benefit where the pension fund is the company that owes the employee's pension, a pension like 3/4 of your salary or 2/3 of your salary or whatever it is once you retire. Whereas defined contribution is what we do now is exactly defined contribution. In other words, it goes into a private pension, the employee puts money in, the employer puts money in, and there's no other liability from the company after that to keep the fund up to a certain level. It's totally separate from the companies. That's how all these companies are protected. That's why Diageo was pleading with people, saying, "We'll just give you 600,000. You've been working here for 40 years. We'll give you 600,000 just to leave." Just to leave our pension fund, because therefore we've no longer got a liability to value this pension fund to be able to pay you on the fact that you might live another 30 years. Yeah. So we'll just give you 600 grand to leave. And some of my friends were taking it, and it was like happy days. Holy shit! I've never seen so much money in my life.
Yeah. There's a few that took, and some got even more than that.
Yeah. So that's the sort. I mean, Elaine got that as well. She got a deal which was a lot less, but I said no, take it. It's like, because if you die tomorrow, your pension dies with you. If you have the money in your bank and your pension fund privately, then if you die tomorrow, it goes to the kids.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So I
don't know how we got on that.
We were anyway. It's all relevant really to the whole subject.
Of course it is.
And,
of course it is.
I think obviously. In relation to what we've been talking today, I think for me a really good takeaway is what you brought up, and it's always good to bounce ideas and maybe off on a tangent because we bring up really good points. But I think for anybody who is on their own journey and maybe they think they don't have any limitations, or maybe they know that they have but they don't know what they are, if you've got a goal and you're not achieving it, set that goal even higher and then see what excuses you might be making to yourself, and that'll help you identify where you need to work on yourself to get yourself more successful.
It's a great one, eh?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's only taken me 58 years to think of that one.
But then that's the whole thing about learning for somebody more successful that's trodden that path. So that's my main takeaway for today, and I hope that I've covered been quite helpful for everybody watching. Of course, obviously we try and pick a topic, but we always go off on a tangent. But it pays off if you're listening and taking in what we're talking about, because there's a lot of information there that's helpful. And as I say, we learn things even having this conversation on screen, like I have today. So I hope that's been helpful for everybody. And as usual, Jim, thanks for all your insights on our topic today. The shortcut to success.
Welcome.
There isn't really one, but there's ways and means to make it an easier ride.
I'll close off by saying Warren Buffett turned around to Jeff Bezos one day and said, "You know the problem with society? Nobody wants to get rich slow nowadays."
Yeah, and that is the instant society today. So that's fine. We'll be back next Monday as usual at 12:30 for the Wealth Creation Show. Until then, I'll see you guys later, and I'll catch you then, Jim.